Recording in progress.
Yeah.
They, check it there.
Yeah.
Oh, holy.
Good vacation?
Yeah, so we did too short, we work on the whole.
Okay.
But then they never came back and never
All
happened.
right, it has like, DPW bought the Holly House down there. Am I wrong about that?
I heard that
On
rumor.
Road Trail? I don't know if that's true or not.
I heard the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Until I see the deed.
Okay, so, sometime maybe, we could get together just to brainstorm about kind of pick something up and go forward. Just because I want to be sure that I'm not, redoing the stuff that you guys already did. So I'll get in touch.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to back.
No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
You are recording.
Yep, we're good to go.
It is 7:01. I'm going to call a meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to add two items to the agenda. One is a discussion of repairs to the West Arlington Cemetery. The other is moving the information kiosk to South Park here over near the Commons. So if someone will make a motion to that.
I'll make a motion to add two items to our agenda, repairs to the West Arlington Cemetery and moving the informational kiosk that is currently in front of the town hall.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to add the cemetery repairs to the West Arlington Cemetery and the information kiosk transfer to the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is public comments. So if there's anyone here that wants to speak on any issue not already on the agenda, now's your time.
And if you want to move up the town meeting item to before the executive session, then
We can do that, sure.
if that works.
It might be worthwhile to do that. So. Is there any? Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Steve.
Steve McClafferty. Last week I was, at home at night, I went to VT Digger and it's where I get news of what's happening around. And then there was an article, and I forget the gentleman's name, he was talking about where he lives over in Chester, Vermont. And at their annual meeting, they asked the town manager, how much money did the town receive in grants? And he replied, about $3 million. And in their town presentation, I added up all the grants and it was closer to $4.7 million that the town of Chester got from a variety of places. I'll just tap that, I just dog-eared it. So my question is, how much dollars did the town of Arlington receive in grants last year? And if you don't know the answer, please don't make one up.
No, we won't. I'm not sure we have the
Yep.
answer to that, but we can
So-
get it for you and get back to you.
So then it piqued my interest a little bit more. So I looked at their annual report, just like our annual report.
Mhm.
And geez, lo and behold, a nice neat income statement. Summarized, here's all the same accounts, that's on here. And they have their revenues broke out. Their tax revenue is not allocated to any departments. So they must have the same system, the NEMRIC. And it's nice and it's clean. And so I'm sitting there going, oh, this is nice. And I further go in, there's a balance sheet. So my question to you folks, when am I going to see an income statement? When am I going to see a balance sheet? I've been asking for a couple of years and, it just doesn't appear. So again, don't have to answer me right now, but I want to start seeing, at least on a monthly basis, an income statement and a balance sheet. I'm a taxpayer. I am the customer here.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
We will.
I think that one general comment, and that's why it's important that we're going to talk about the town report and town meeting, is that we have to get started getting a better town report now. Because what happens is in the late fall and then the early winter, we're so busy just trying to get the numbers and make the decisions And so I feel as if we don't always take the steps forward that we should be. So that's one of the things that's on my agenda that I don't know when it would be, September, sometime when there's not a lot
When
going
it's not
on.
so busy.
When it's
and
not so
year-end
busy,
stuff.
to create the format that we're gonna use. And then, it would be easier to just slot things in when we go to town
Well, in
meeting.
my opinion, the town report's a 12-month project
Should
that
I know,
we
but
should
I
start
don't,
right
but
now.
I know,
to
but I
build
don't
that.
even think about it, you
I
know, until
understand
the
that,
last
but I
minute.
mean, if
You
you
know,
think
and
big
Nick's trying to
picture,
pull all the numbers together, and we're just trying to get it done instead of having these kinds of improvements.
I
And
think if
so,
we need to think big picture and that's
Earlier,
something
much
that we
earlier,
need to
much
start, you
earlier.
know, and even if we
Format
have a,
first and then the numbers accurately.
Yeah. yeah,
mean,
In that format.
and nobody wants extra meetings or anything but a committee
A
for
subcommittee or
a
something,
subcommittee
yeah.
for the annual report, and we should
Yeah.
get started now on that.
yeah,
And then it's,
Then we
to
won't
your
be
point,
rushed.
it's
Right.
just a template that we can
put in
fill
the
in.
numbers, you know, it's like,
You know, it's the same thing with budget discussions. We should really start our budget discussion now for next year.
and we
I
should be
mean, most
discussing the health
businesses are
insurance
working
stuff,
their
yeah.
next fiscal budget already,
Ready,
and
right.
there's no reason that we shouldn't be doing that. And
Right.
again,
Mhm.
maybe that's a good opportunity for a subcommittee to actually work on the town budget. So,
Dan, one of the things, I've been in accounting for all my life. Anywhere from organizations roughly $1 million to $450 million. On a monthly basis, I have to produce income statements, balance sheets, cash flows, trending analysis. Doing it once a year just doesn't do it. I don't know how you are managing the town without having at least, I'll say every other month, an income statement or a balance sheet. I know I always worry about cash and cash flow because cash is king. And if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you are. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead.
another thought that I had, and it kind of comes around to Steve's thought on an income statement and a balance sheet, is that I think as a board, and this goes with budget, and I think this falls all right back into town meeting, is that if we did have a monthly, we need to see where we're at monthly against budget as a board for things like payroll, right? And we're buying supplies or whatever that is, where are we at against budget? And also, if we know that we're going to have a shortfall for whatever reason, we can adjust budget mid-year or say we're not going to spend that. So I think that goes right along with an income statement and a balance sheet
well, we
to
do look
understand.
at the budget. We get periodic printouts of where we are in terms of spending. So it's not quite what he's
Just-
talking about.
It's
but it
not
gives
very
you-
clean. No, it's
I'm
not
not saying
like-
that it's clean, but it's not like we don't look at anything. We do look at that.
I
and
didn't say
also-
we didn't, but it's definitely not clean and it's definitely not what I don't think that it is clear enough, and it's something that I believe that, you know, the treasurer as a hired position from us should be able to prepare a very clean and concise report to give to us as managers to look at, and then we can make decisions if we need to scale back hours or payroll or number of people or whatever it might be based on where we're at against
In
budget.
addition to those two reports, which I think we should do, is for our planning purpose, it would still be a public document. Cash flow forecast that we revise maybe quarterly, at the very least quarterly. And that way the treasurer can look at it to anticipate borrow.
Right, so we don't have to have those
Planning, so
last
we don't
minute
even have-
emergency
yeah, exactly.
votes
So
for
we have a
tomorrow
little bit-
from ourselves.
Well, we do that
That's not
normally,
last minute emergency.
Oh, we
that's
have had
planned.
some of those.
We've
though.
had-
Definitely has some of this.
but I'm just saying if we have a cash flow forecast, even if we update it for 3 months at a time on a rolling window,
Mhm.
then that, like you said, cash is king. The cash flow forecast is almost as important as the other two reports, if not more important for immediate stuff
Yeah.
and decisions.
Yeah.
So I think we should add that. So this is kind of evolving into the discussion on the town meeting discussion, but, let me do one more thing. We'll,
Don had a question.
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to follow up on Steve's point and what you folks have been saying. Back in the fall, we made a presentation to you suggesting that to keep things simple for you, you create what we call a dashboard of key financial figures for the town that you need to see every month. You don't need to see a blizzard of statements, but if you have a dashboard, it'll tell you where you are in certain, the budget, the P&L, the income and expense, the cash, the balance sheet, and other key data strictly on a dashboard.
Mhm.
Right? If you want to go back beyond that, then obviously you can dig in and get more information. And the other one, and getting back to Steve's point about the balance sheet, and I brought this up at town meeting, we get one bank statement from I think Bank of Bennington, and they had that $2 million in cash as of 12/31. That as a CPA, that raises a huge concern of ours in our profession, that all this money is in one account at one bank, and and as I said at town meeting, I hope nothing goes wrong with Bank of Bennington, but it does raise a question of you as managing it. We don't have $2 million to spend in operations of the town, but some of that money, over several million, a lot of it, I think it was $1.4 million, was your reserve fund, your capital reserve fund. That's not available to you on a day-to-day basis. The other cash obviously is.
Right.
So again, it provides information to allow you to manage the town. That's all.
And I was quite struck by that, because my understanding is when we do that borrowing from ourselves, we always repay it with interest.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, what kind of interest is there on this account? Is it a checking account? I mean, why can't we have a short-term CD? Once you have that amount of money, a short-term
reserve
CD,
funds.
because we know we're not gonna, exactly, for the cap, we may borrow some of them, but we're not gonna borrow all of them. So I felt that Mr. Killen raised a really important question, and that possibly we should split some of that money off into a CD, but I don't know what the legal structure and the constraints are on the town in terms of how it keeps that money or manages that money.
It's in the treasurer's office about the investments. And so you can request the treasurer does that as a person that reports to you. So
I thought that might be the case. Okay,
You do get a good, you get a good interest on the account.
we do. Okay, good.
Because it's all in one account.
Yeah,
It's
Well,
one bank.
I understand the concept. All our eggs in one basket. It's not a good thing. All right, we're gonna postpone the executive session till after new business item 6.1, which is the discussion, which will kind of be an ongoing discussion where we are now for the post-town meeting critique, I guess. So, I just need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting before we go
I
there.
make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting like presented.
So, second.
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Staying over here.
Motion carries. One abstention. All right, so now we're gonna move right into the town meeting discussion. And my thought here is just let's look at what we did right, what we did wrong, what we can improve. And just kind of a thumbnail sketch of where anything anybody observed, including people that were at the meeting, that we need to do other than something we've already touched on. Go ahead.
I think that we did have one gentleman who mentioned the question of the town administrator having a separate report in the town meeting report, and apparently he's the one that talked about it at the previous town meeting, and we didn't understand what he meant. At least I don't know, Nick, about you. So I think that, that as we go forward, that's something that we should think about, even if it's, I mean, it doesn't have to repeat what the board says.
Mhm.
It can be, about other aspects of the town administrator functioning or whatever. And so I think we should make a note that that's something that, that should be included. But the more substantive, issue has to do with page 31, which is the budget summary table. And, this is the page on which a couple of things happen, if memory serves, and if anybody else needs to correct me, that's fine. But, first of all, there was some kind of error that had to be corrected. And then John had to do that thing where he says, we're gonna take this from this, and the amount we're actually voting on is this. And, it seems to me that there's been this kind of a verbal transaction and statement at most of our meetings since I've joined the board,
For
and it
decades.
drives me
For
nuts.
decades.
It drives me nuts.
Say in there. what
It
the
should
amount
say
we're voting
what
on.
we are voting on, and if there's an error, then we can correct it. But the number that people will actually vote on should be
On
written
the
in the book.
floor.
It's on the floor, it should be
Yeah.
written in the book. So all the adjustments, whatever sequence of adjustments, and then highlighted, this is the number you're actually voting on after the revenues or whatever, the non-tax revenue.
Yeah.
So, so that's something that I really wanna, highlight and make sure that we can get. And Nick, I would appreciate if you have any insight into whatever the mistake was here or how we can do this better.
So the mistake was a simple, forgot to update a number from last year. The-
Forgot to update a number from last year.
That's
Okay.
that's simply
That's a proofreading
a
issue.
proofreading
Yeah.
issue. But ultimately, the number that we voted on was still there, but it still requires some explanation to understand it. And
That is
why-
not, oh,
Shouldn't need
the
to
number
be
was, if there
explained.
hadn't been a math error, the
No,
number would have been
no,
correct.
the math, it's in there. It's the number that we voted
No,
on.
it was
the-
not.
no.
This is what we voted on.
So that was the
That was
non-tax.
not there.
Yeah, but the number that the operational number is that 1.7903 number. That is the.
But it
That's
says
the total
amount, no, amount, okay, so, all right, amount to be raised by taxes to be voted from the floor, 1405.
Right.
Total floor budget excluding on
Yeah.
the, see, I don't understand.
Yeah,
I don't
that number,
understand
that number is the correct number that
This
you
number.
vote on, but that's the number, that should be explained more. Maybe there should be a paragraph that explains
Okay,
how
so-
this is calculated.
So in other words, this is the floor budget.
Yes,
And then it means that this is what you will raise by taxes.
right,
This floor budget means.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
And if there
That
hadn't been a
needs to be
math
written so
error.
a sixth
that
or
would be
seventh
different.
grader can understand.
Yeah, no, it has to be
It's gotta
better.
be
It has to be
simple,
better.
Yeah, and this has had more explanation in the previous year, but there's more explanation that
But I
can be
think
done.
this is again, the kind of thing that I was just saying that every year I think about it. And then the
Yeah.
next year,
Yeah.
we're just going nuts trying to get it out and I don't
Well,
bring it up.
And some of
So,
this comes from the fact that the budget that you guys all talk about when you're approving the budget ends up being a different number. And maybe at the outset, when you're talking about the overall budget, we should start introducing some of these alternative top line budget numbers at that.
I don't
I'm
think,
just trying to think.
I don't think that the actual number that we're discussing when we're looking at the spreadsheets or something is so important as that when it gets down
Yeah.
here, there's a clear flow and there's some text
Yeah.
explaining it.
Yeah, there
That's
definitely needs
all I
to
think.
be some more text explained.
It should be so
Um,
simple that even the PhDs in the room can understand.
That's
Yeah,
right,
right.
because right now, this one can't, so,
I
you
mean,
know.
ultimately, I look forward to taking ideally 1 to 2 phone calls from your future administrator when they're starting to prepare this to say, okay, what can we do better? Let me go and explain some of the key pieces of this. Or the nice thing is, most of this, all this is gonna be there for them, including all of the
The whole
calculations
framework.
to make it all work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Including the place I forgot to replace, but it should be but short of adjusting that language on those, why is the number in the table gonna be inherently always different than the number down below that you're voting on, is gonna always be a challenging question.
Right.
Because it's a disjoint that you can't really fix, because the floor
No,
budget number is
you
always gonna be
can't, you
different.
can't fix it, but you have to make it clear
Yeah,
why
clear.
it's
It
different.
should be printed, not just.
Right, not just verbal.
Not just
Correct.
verbal. It should be printed
Yeah.
in there so that people, then they can
And,
ask
and
questions.
according to Nick, the 1,700,000, that is the.
That is the number. That's the number. That was the number at the end of
That's
the
the
slide
number,
deck
yeah.
that no one ever saw. And things like that, where some of this was written in a way of an assumption that there was going to be a slide deck that put the number that you're voting for in big text on a screen in front of everyone.
Yes.
And it didn't rely on this because when you're working through a town meeting slide deck, you're doing it to try and be clear about the numbers that you're voting on, and you're deliberately setting aside all those back-end numbers that
Right.
go into the calculation. So it gets a little bit easier when you actually have a bit of presentation where you put in big white letters on a screen surrounded in orange. This is the number you're voting on. It can be a little bit tough, somewhat helpful, I would say.
And we did have a slideshow and.
Yep.
Partly my not communicating correctly with the moderator meant that the budget actually was discussed. One question was asked and it was passed before the slideshow went.
Yeah.
So then I whispered in his ear, I said, they passed the budget. I don't see anything to put the slideshow on.
Right.
Because we'd be rehashing the entire budget.
But you know what we might want to think though, is to have that final slide explaining everything and to put that up.
That should be.
When
up
we
so
start
people
the
can see it
discussion,
when the
and then we
moderator
can
talks
always
about it.
go
It's at
to
the end of the
different
slideshow for a
charts.
reason.
Yeah, go be at the
And-
end, be at the end, and then you can
And
always.
even in the warning, at least to make a note to the moderator that at number 2, then we do the slideshow, then, you know, just
Yeah.
a sketch of
Yeah,
the outline of.
and you did
the
use
order
the
of things.
slideshow at the informational.
We did.
stuff.
There might be a case for an annotated warning
Warning.
that goes to the moderator that has like the select board's notes. That aren't gonna be published on the warning because
Right.
you shouldn't be publishing comments in the warning.
Of
text.
course.
But certainly
But we
there,
could do
For
an
guidance.
annotated one.
For
that
guidance.
Does that, so
Yeah.
he doesn't skip something like
Yeah.
that.
yeah, and we,
Yeah,
and
We
we kind
didn't
of
make any difference
Right.
this year,
right.
but it was like.
Oh,
and the
We
mod-
passed the budget. We don't need this slideshow. so-
Yeah, normally there's a meeting between the moderator and the administrator leading up to town meeting. That meeting was a very brief phone call, and I think that it's important that that meeting be
A little more.
a little bit more substantial.
Well, and I called him the night before you talked, and it never occurred to me that he was gonna put
Yeah,
the budget up before we even did the
yeah. I think
slideshow.
there's a little bit of rehearsal that needs
That's
to be wrapped.
that's a communication stuff.
And what I think might be an idea would be invite the moderator to the budget session and see if they can maybe moderate the budget session. That could be an interesting proposal and
you
see,
mean the information?
and the
The
information
information
session, the
meeting,
information
absolutely.
session.
Absolutely.
That might be an interesting way to get a dry run on this a little bit.
Yeah, that might be a
Um,
better way to do it, but
But
anyway, like I said, I didn't go over the outline with him at all. Thinking you were doing it, and you probably were thinking I was doing it, so
But
anyway,
also those pie charts and things that Nick did were in
I thought
here
those were
for
excellent.
anybody, and that answered, I think, a lot of questions.
that was definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Those were very good. Anything else that you guys noticed? I did speak with Todd today about the one thing that I was concerned with was, the acoustics in the building and the sound
It was
system.
horrible.
And he did say that, there's a hub. He described it as something, but there's a hub in the system that is broken. So that's going to be fixed by next meeting. We should have better acoustics, but I suggested that depending on the size of the meeting, we may want to go to the Mac Center.
I thought all of those people could have fit in the Mac Center with no
hundred and
problem.
fifty could. And I
Yeah.
think I was asking about capacity,
Yep.
and I think he said it's 175.
I think
Maybe.
it's like,
But if we had something controversial where it brought a lot of people out, we'd have to be
Yeah.
careful where we had it.
I think we should stick with the gymnasium unless we become assured that it really is gonna be smaller. If the system gets fixed, that may help, but I also think that, again, that putting this on the moderator or one of the board could speak up about it, but people don't hold the microphone in the right
I know.
place, so we need instructions
That's-
where you hold the microphone, and then nobody can speak without the
Without the
microphone. You can't just stand up and start talking, because people around
I
you will
can
hear
tell
you.
you from
know, it's like-
doing a lot of conferences and events that nobody will ever use the microphone properly. Never,
Never.
ever. And you can't
Can't we
tell
do better?
people
Can
to
we do
do that.
better?
It is
The
a
moderator
it is an
could repeat the
age-old
question.
problem.
That's one way of dealing with it.
And-
Repeat the question.
Even if the sound system, the hub or whatever in that portable sound system gets fixed, the acoustics in that room
Sure.
are not, that will not make it any better. It'll just make bad acoustics louder. Because it is not made to carry voices.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if
that's
we
why I was
could
thinking
have it in the
accent.
theater, the theater is designed to carry voices and not have all of that extraneous ambient sound, so people would be able to hear better in there.
One thought that he had as a possibility, and it's extremely preliminary, is go to the Commons and do it in the cathedral of the.
Acoustics are much
Acoustics
better
might
in
be much
there.
better in
They are
there.
much better.
And
in
we
there.
might not be running up against the capacity issue.
Correct.
So that was very preliminary, but
If you feel that, you've had a horrible town meeting, more or less, because it's like capacity 300.
Yeah,
so.
so that would be, I
We've
mean, there's
never had
no,
that many. Even in
I think the theater type
Yeah.
venue would be much better for, I mean, that is the one thing that I heard is everybody, and I've heard it year after year, is
Yeah.
it's so hard to hear. And I know one year we did have it in the Performing Arts
Because
Center.
of the repairs.
Yeah.
I think the gym was
The gym
closed, right?
Jim was closed.
That's right. And it was much easier to
Yes,
hear and
absolutely.
converse and hear the audience talk to us and us talk to
Well,
you.
what did we have? Did we have like 120 or something at this meeting?
150 this time.
We had 150 this time.
Like a vote of
It-
59
yeah,
to 49.
The
Within
official
a
number
couple.
was between those two numbers.
You
Um,
can use the stage for chairs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there's
You
a,
can use the stage for, with chairs as well.
Oh,
The vote was 106.
yeah, so how did we have
Yes.
150? I don't
There would have been a bunch
understand.
of abstentions potentially.
It was those extra people in there voting.
poltergeist running around.
Years ago, when we used the gym, if you recall, you might, there was a curtain that cut the gym in half.
Yeah,
And sometimes we just eliminated the seating
that would
to
make it a
one
little
side.
better.
And that actually made the acoustics better. And there was one year
We'll
where we
absorb it.
spoke from the, up near the stage, not on the stage, but near the
Yeah.
stage, facing that curtain. And then
Mhm.
everybody was down here, and that wasn't too bad. But with the full gym and the echo
That
chamber.
curtain
that
doesn't
it
exist
becomes,
anymore, right? No,
I
and
was-
that, I mean, that would be a lot of cloth to absorb the
Yeah.
bounce
Yeah.
of the audio, which is what made that much better.
But the narrowing, basically cutting in half the room for it to
That
echo
also makes a difference.
helped a lot.
Yeah.
I did hear that GNAC, nobody had any problem understanding that. Because it must have been the way they had their microphones configured or whatever, or the quality, whatever it was, but people out there had no problem hearing. It was the people in the gym that had the problem.
Mhm.
So, but I wanted to, maybe we can resolve that once and for all by either a change of venue, change of system, but I agree with you that even if we have a good sound system,
Gonna be
when you're
loud, bad
echoing through a
acoustics.
canyon, it's gonna echo through the canyon. no
I
matter
just
what.
don't know what would happen if we were in MAC and for whatever reason, 180 people come. What do we do?
You
then?
should definitely
Well,
have a
that's-
flow
that's
room
easy.
with a video feed of some sort
Yeah, we
that
could do
has the
that.
GNAT.
Or you pull out the bleachers and you move everybody to the gym.
Then you
Yeah.
might as well be in the gym. I'm sorry, you know, it's like, I don't know.
I don't know,
That's
the
issue.
commons may be an interesting
That is an
conversation for
interesting-
town meeting, and it also gets people to their venue
And it
too.
doesn't
see
even
if
get
they-
close to the threshold that we sometimes hit. So-
You're gonna run into a nasty parking constraint at the Commons because the facility is not meant to handle that many cars.
Yeah.
But you have you have hundreds of spaces when you include street parking in the area and walkable. It's not that much
Yeah.
longer to walk from the end of the parking lot to the entrance of the gym and back in, all the way down to the far end. So you could absolutely rely on there being enough parking in the center of town. It's just gonna be,
We might be able to overcome that by doing a shuttle from the school. to-
yeah. there's a-
I don't agree with this. I think we need to use publicly owned spaces for a public meeting and avoid the parking issue and just try to improve the sound system. But we can talk about this more.
Yeah, I just brought it up as
Nope,
something.
no,
to discuss.
we definitely need to, I mean, obviously,
Improve
they're
everything.
they're gonna repair the sound system, so that's first of
Yeah.
all. And I take Matt's point, but we have to keep trying to get people to use it properly. It ought to be probably possible to do better than we have been doing once it's repaired and if we can provide instruction.
Want to make sure to circle back to John?
Yes, go ahead, John.
Thank you very much.
He has a couple
I have
of
some
things.
comments on this topic you're discussing now, and I'll hand this out to you at the end of the, when I'm finished.
Yep.
I'll give one to them. To answer your other question on the bank, they paid 2.5%, and we earned $59,111 from the bank. Okay, so
But I mean, CDs are 4%.
I know,
So,
yeah. That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah,
I know change comes, not very easily, don't I know that from being around here long enough now. But I do have some comments, because I was at the town meeting, I was right up front, and I could not hear I definitely couldn't hear the two speakers, Kathleen James and Hunter, was it? And
Rob Hunter.
and I don't want to, you already discussed. The sound, but let me just say this, I have some suggestions on enhancing town meeting.
Okay.
Update, to update the assembly, on what is taking place in our town. In other words, the chair should give the state of the town. Again, these are just suggestions, and then we'll continue, have the meeting in the Arlington Commons Performance Hall or the Mac Center, and have a better sound system for all the meeting and for all the meeting to see the exhibits. Now, notwithstanding some of your concerns about the Commons, second to the Josh Sherman's recording studio, that has one of the best sound systems in town right now. They spent a lot of money on it. The other thing they can handle 300 people there, as they do with the fly fishing. And the other one is they have a video screen that if you're in the back of the church, the performance hall is called now, you can see the screen. Whereas I'm sure people at the right end of the gym could not see that screen that was right in front of me at the town meeting. Not that you showed a lot, but it's just another thing. If we're going to have a meeting, how will we get all our audience to participate? Another one is invite to the meeting and introduce the leaders of local industry and businesses, especially if there has been changes. Now, may I ask, how many of you met Josh Pang?
Once.
How many of you met him? Right. You all knew Chip Kendall.
Yep.
And what's the name of the former president? Josh is now the president of Mackinac. He's been here about a year. He's very committed to our community. They just added, I think, close to $3 to $5 million worth of equipment. And he's very glad he's here in Arlington, and the company's here, and they're expanding. Biggest concern he has, of course, is lack of young people to work there, and they're getting so many other people coming in from New York. That's one of his largest concerns. He told Todd and I when we met him. I'm just saying he might be someone you may want to have come and speak at town meeting and introduce himself, or you introduce him as our new leader of MAC. Also, Orvis, what are they doing? Even though Orvis is not in town, they are contiguous with our town. Interesting, people always ask, what's Josh Sherman and the Old Mill plan? What are their plans? Have them as a guest speaker at town. Introduce the assembly to the town's employees and services. We've had a number of new employees, the new elected officials. I'm talking about the highway department, the rec, the administrative office, fire and rescue. Update the assembly on what may not be taking place. For example, if you're not going to continue with the wastewater, Benedict Bridge, new firehouse, plans for the high school, and the lack of growth, if there's any lack of growth in families, which I believe they are here in town. Because as I said to someone here the other day, one of the most important statistics in the town report, in my opinion, was right on the front page, and that was the population, and that has stayed somewhat constant over the years. In discussing those things that are not going to take place, what are the ramifications then for the clinic, for the Arlington Commons, for local businesses? And then add to the town report, the town's year-end financial, this goes back to what Steve was saying, add to the town report the financial statements of the balance sheet, the income statement, and ideally a cash flow. What we start out with cash and how we use our cash for the year. Another one, I keep mentioning this to you folks, I would address the growth in the town's grand list. And I have it, and you'll have it here. The grand list right now is Joe and they're working on it, is approximately 325 million. right? Last year it was 324 million, and the year before it was 322 million. That to me is, it's a little anemic, and ideally we'd like to see it grow more, and I'm sure when you do the reappraisal, it's gonna obviously you see a big jump there. But from where we are, it'd be nice to see the grand list go up, because that's a very key and tangible asset for this town, is our grand list. And you really want to protect that, as I said. Address the town's population, the status of housing. And then make the report more personable, as in the past, by showing photos. If we have new employees, new elected officials, it doesn't hurt to show them in the report. I mean, many people, I'm sure, would like to know who's in charge. I'm just picking on the rec department now. Who's in charge of our recreation? Who's our new treasurer? And we have now our new. We don't have to be so literal with the figures, which the report is dominated. That there are obviously some reports by the various organizations in the back, but we can make the report more personal.
Can I jump in on that? One model for you guys to think about next year, look at Josh Brace's report from the water department, and that could be a model for some of this, because he really did do some of this. Hey, I'm a new water guy. I just got hired 2 months ago. Let me introduce myself. So that might be something that you might want to either recreate, have some kind of mental report that really personalizes this. That's an opportunity that if you really want to go down that direction, you have models to use. So
Now, I'm just suggesting town folks, including yourselves. I mean, and I have something really out of the box. Have the town meeting on a Saturday morning, with a refreshment break between the town meeting and the school meeting, or the school meeting and the town meeting, where we can just mingle a few minutes before we get into the next meeting. But maybe we can get more families here and more folks on a Saturday than on a Monday night. I know that's been discussed in the past, but again, I throw it out. All I'm just suggesting is that we think a little bit outside the box, and because the town meeting, not just in Arlington, but throughout Vermont, the number of people attending them, notwithstanding Zoom and local access, is really declining. And we have a chance now, maybe, to do things a little bit different. And I'll leave this with you. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, we want to.
Take one, pass it on. Thank you, Don. That was food for thought, for sure. It's kind of circling back to what you were saying about introducing people. I'm not sure, it's a bad idea, I'm not sure town meeting is the place for it, but we have a town website, and we have a Facebook page, and we could maybe highlight individual people for those time to really either do a video clip or something with bio that we could introduce them on maybe a monthly basis, highlighting an individual within the town hierarchy.
Well, I was down there, what problem to me, to some degree, I was at I call it the writing festival. I heard it all year.
Yeah.
And I overheard two folks talking. One was asking, I came by 313 and I saw the Mac place. Is that where they make the trucks? And and I don't know whether they're from town, but they thought it was.
It is spelled the same.
And I'm saying to myself, wow. Wouldn't it be helpful to know, exactly what they do there?
Yeah.
Now, whether I agree with you, whether you do it at town meeting, but
To really do it justice, in the case of this year, we had two new hires really close to town meeting. The water department, and so it might, to introduce everyone, would just prolong the meeting and probably piss everybody off.
No, I think you can do it quickly and,
Yeah. But I think you could delve into it a little bit more, in detail per person if you did it either on the website or in a format where people can search it and then highlight it somehow. Go check out this person at the website and give the address, all that.
well, there's 540 of us that are on the water system.
Yeah,
I think around roughly 540, something like that. It'd be nice to have met the new, manager. But
yes,
We always knew Peter. And
Of
and
course.
we all know,
For-
Vera.
we all, being here for 40 years. But a lot of the folks don't know our
Of
new,
course.
and he's a key figure in town.
Yeah. All good things to chew on, for sure.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned a good idea, the website, but the website has to be updated. It has to.
That's
before
the
you-
other thing,
Yeah.
that's the other thing that I haven't gotten there yet. But
Yeah, okay.
I have talked with, most of the people in the building that really do the website. Town clerk specifically, it's time we do a thorough revamp. It's probably been 10 years. It's time we maybe even get an easier to use format, so.
Yeah, the WordPress like back end is getting increasingly dated.
Yes, yes.
As well as all the user base and stuff. But yeah, it's been exactly 10 years since you guys implemented that website.
So it's past time to update that whole system.
And you have changed. I mean, most of you are too young to remember acetate slides. We used to, put an acetate slide on a screen and showed it on the screen.
Very well.
I did
On the
too.
Xerox.
Then we had, the pad, but now you go to, these very fancy devices for videos and so forth, which is changes.
Yeah.
And it's done very well and we move along, but let's not lose sight of who we are, and that is, we're really a town of people. And it helps to introduce everyone, I think.
I don't disagree. Yes,
Just a
Kendall,
quick
go ahead.
one to Don's items. I was thinking, at the meeting, they said it was hard for parents of young kids at home for them to attend the meeting. I could round up some students who need community service hours.
Mhm.
And we can open up like a daycare or childcare in the library so the parents could attend
Good
the
point.
That
meeting.
would be awesome.
Good point.
Any other thoughts, comments, critiques? The reason we needed to establish is for personnel.
Did you want to do the repairs to the Arlington Cemetery and the kiosk before the executive session?
We don't need to.
Okay, that's fine.
We have other
I
pieces
just,
in
no,
there.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Several of them.
Yeah.
Take care.
This one is
Yeah.
not upside down. If you want to read that.
Email the.
I know it's the last time.
I make a motion that premature discussion of the personnel issue would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
I'll second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel matter. All in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye.
I further make a motion to actually enter into executive session for discussion of said personnel issue and to allow town administrator Nick Zayas to remain in the room with the shop. Is that correct?
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to enter into executive session and allow town administrator Zias to remain in the room. I think we're just going there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, yes.
Those of you running around, we've moved to the first story in the hallways because we know sound travels horribly through this.
Downstairs for a minute would be right.
I got some news after the meeting.
Oh.
I do apologize for that.
Next week, okay.
I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming by.
Yeah.